Purpose and Personal is our anti-racism and multiculturalism workshops. We have 6 of them that started this summer and going on into the fall and maybe earlier on into the winter, if, winter start early for us here. So we started last month with Dr. Sekandi. We were so blessed to have her in the room. We learned a lot last month in July back in Edmonton, and we had a ton of people that joined us online as well. Today we are in Calgary in person, and we have people joining us on Zoom, and we will still have more people. Right now we have about maybe 10 on Zoom, and we have more people joining us as we continue. Well, a little bit about Aspire Hub. Aspire Hub is a youth-serving organization. One of our goals is to help our youth to attain improved health and career outcomes. And racism is one of the barriers that we have been facing. We've seen people, youth, decline job. We've seen them decline internship. We've seen people not even looking at their resume, where their name sounded, or because of, the way it's written. So we are not in denial that racism is among us. It's very easy to pretend like, no, we don't have it. But that's the truth. Today we're talking about another sensitive one, leadership and anti-racism. And there's no lie that we don't have enough representation of Black people in leadership in our country. So I'm not going to take it away. We have the experts in the room that are going to do justice to the topic today. I'm so excited to see that and learn. So please, guys, use the chat for questions. We are also going to give room for questions at the end of the panel presentations. So please don't be shy. This is a safe place to learn and to dialogue and to grow. So I'm super excited for the conversations we're going to have, and I hope you are as excited as I am. So sit down, relax, and have a great time. And I'm going to invite Ms. Tayo to do the land acknowledgement.
In the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we honor and acknowledge Mohkinstsis and the Traditional Treaty 7 and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, as well as the Eyaksi, Nakota, and the Tsuut'ina nations. We acknowledge that this treaty is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. Finally, we acknowledge all nations, Indigenous and none, who live, work, and play on this land, and we honor and celebrate this territory. This sacred gathering place provides us with the opportunity to engage and demonstrate leadership in reconciliation. Thank you.
We have in the room today amazing speakers, people who have done a lot of work in this space. But I'm not going to introduce them. They are going to let us get to meet them when it gets to their turn. But first, I'm going to pass the baton now to Dr. Miriam Sekandi, who is our moderator for today and who is going to lead us in the amazing conversation. A round of applause for Dr. Miriam Sekandi.
Thank you, and welcome this evening to this amazing event. Thank you, Aspire Hub, sponsored by the government of Alberta, for bringing us these workshops and these conversations that are pertinent and that we need to have, and we cannot take the foot off the pulse. We need to keep the foot, not even the finger, the foot on the pulse. Those who haven't met me, I'm Miriam Sekandi, and right now my big job is an educator. I love educating the masses in different ways, and I won't go deep into my bio, but because I this evening I have 4 amazing women, powerhouses, and I think I have met all 4 of you, which is really good and amazing and exciting. And I'm going to mention their names, but I'm not going to read their bios. I will just mention an interesting fact about them, and they will get to introduce themselves to us, because I want to hear, sometimes when you're asked for your bio, you play with words a lot. What should I put in the bio? But I want to hear from their mouths who they are, what they do, and all I'm going to do is pick out a little thing from the bios that I was given I do have Barhet, Miss Barhet Waldemariam, and Barhet, allow me to say you're a 6-year-old in Edmonton. She's a 6-year-old in Edmonton time, more years in Canada, and a few years in Eritrea. And then we have Miss Rochelle. Rochelle loves to travel, to snowboard, camp, connect with friends and family over food, and spend time with her cat Marlo. I'm hoping Marlo will make an appearance during this conversation, and then we'll get to meet Marlo. I also do have Miss Neka Otobolu, if I got the name right. She's a super mom of 3 kids, loves to read, watch movies, and cook. And last but not least, Dr. Love. If you've not met Dr. Love, I don't know who you've met, but I love Dr. Love. And Dr. Love is in Calgary right now. Can she make her presence so that people can see?
Hello.
Oh, I know you need to look this way behind. She's right there, seated at the front.
This way. This is the
Okay. Hello.
There's Dr. Love.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Love. And one of the things that Dr. Love has done that I love, if you have not watched the short movie, it's an award-winning movie, I Can't Breathe, you need to. It is amazing. It is loaded, and it is one of those movies that I love to show anyone when it comes to anti-racism work, but I'm not going to show it to you. So to our lovely panelists, all 4 of you, I would like to invite you to share with us what you do. I just wanted to pick up the fun parts. What you do as a leader, because you're all amazing leaders, as you've been invited here to share with us today, and what it's been like at the forefront of anti-racism work, because we know it's not an easy spot, but as you share with us what you do, share with us also what it's been like at the forefront of anti-racism work. And I'll start off with Dr. Love over Calgary.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here sharing this platform with you. I really appreciate everything you're doing. It's a great honor to be amongst those with same vision. Because it's true we are in this land, but some people will just move on with their lives, and whatever is going on is going on. So it's good to find out that there are some people who are actually pushing on to get things right in this land. So my name is Love. I am a counselor by profession. I work with youth a lot. I did my thesis in developmental psychology. So I understand a lot of what's going on in the life of youth. And I personally was 16 too when I moved to Italy as a student to study under the Nigerian federal government scholarship. So I went through a lot as a teenager in a foreign land. It was very, very empowering, challenging, and at the same time empowering. So bringing all those experiences helped me to build resilience and strength or anything to make sure that other people don't go through that. Especially I'm a mother of 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. So I just finished working with Dr. Bukola, who did a project for the youth, Black Youth Mentorship and Leadership Program. We finished yesterday 6 weeks here in Calgary, and it was amazing to have our young people come together, train them, help them find out who they are, help them take the right places in the society. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Love and Barhet. Welcome to share with us what you do and what it's been like at the front line of anti-racism work.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Barhet Waldemariam, and I am currently serving in my professional capacity as Executive Director for the Center for Race and Culture here in Edmonton. As Miriam said, I have been in Alberta, Edmonton, 6-ish years. New to this role, have been working in many different spaces in the not-for-profit sector throughout my career. And so it's an interesting question because though in this role, it's actively and explicitly stated that it's anti-racism work, but in so many ways it's shown up in many of the roles and many of the spaces that I have worked in and lived and played in. So it's constantly challenging, constantly evolving and constantly growing and constantly reflecting on self. So it's as much a personal journey as it is a professional community and collective journey. So right now, what it's like to work in these spaces, I will say confusing and unclear, but in a good way. It's a bit of a creative chaos. So I will leave it at that for now.
Love that, creative chaos. And I love that you're saying it's a personal and professional journey, because that's what I've felt too. Miss Rochelle, did Marlo make an appearance?
He's here. He just jumped down. My name's Rochelle Ignacio. My pronouns are she, her. I want to acknowledge that I'm in Treaty 6 Métis Region 4 in Edmonton. It's also born in Treaty 6 in rural Alberta. I don't even know where to start with my anti-racism journey because it's like all over the place and intersects in a lot of capacities. I'd probably say that 2020 is where it really started when I co-founded Black Owned Market Edmonton, which is one of my sunset projects now, but it was my baby that I was really proud of. And it's really about uplifting and putting a spotlight on Black entrepreneurs in Edmonton. So we created a market and just brought people that wanted to spend their dollars in socially conscious ways and contribute to a community. It's kind of morphed now. So I created a dining week called Beat the Soul Dining Week. Again, focused on Black culinary entrepreneurs this time, but really looking at the same type of concept of getting people into businesses, small mom and pop businesses. Might not have heard of it. It might be walking by in your neighborhood, not really feeling a little shy to go into a Swahili restaurant or go try some injera. So that's really what we're doing in that capacity. In my day job, I'm a director of diversity and inclusion at Tamarack Institute, which is a national nonprofit. So I kind of tell people that I eat, breathe, sleep anti-racism work. I always find a way to get involved in the community. And then I bring those lessons into the organizational work that I do as well. What has it been like? I would say it's like a roller coaster. I've really learned that you have to celebrate the small wins with people. It's really frustrating. There's lots of tears that go into the work. And I think for me, that's why I enjoy working remotely is I can hang up a call and be angry, or I can hang up a call and cry, go for a walk if I need to, but also just walking alongside the people the other panelists that are here with me today really makes me feel like I have a community as well. So it's beautiful to see the progress. I think right now for me, it's more how do we keep anti-racism at the forefront and current and centered in everything we're doing. I'm really grateful for where I work in my day job because we have deep, meaningful conversations. But I've worked at places where I can't have the type of conversations I have now. So yeah, I think it's that roller coaster feeling up and down all around. And you just have to be you know what, I survived today and this is the progress that was made, and wake up and do it all over again. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. And just know we are on that roller coaster with you. You're not alone. Thank you. And Miss Neka, Did I say your name right?
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Nneka Otogolu, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Equity Advancement at the Edmonton Community Foundation. So at ECF, I wear many hats. My role, this particular role that I'm currently in, started in May. Before then, I was the Director of Communications and Equity Strategy. And I am joining this meeting virtually from Edmonton on the Treaty 6 territory, homelands to the First Nation and Métis people. Yeah, what it's like for being in the forefront of the work, anti-racism work that I do. I can tell you I stumbled on this role. Like when I was recruited here, I lived in BC and I moved down from BC in 2020, a week before the world shut down to the pandemic. And my role was around increasing internally ECF's equity capacity to do the work that we do in community for community. And majorly what we do is funding nonprofits, charities, and community groups here. And while doing this, my role evolved over time. I found out that I had to do a lot of community engagement and advocacy. And that was how I stumbled on the anti-racism work. Not to repeat what Barhet and Rochelle has said, I echo my thoughts, resonate with their thoughts as well. As a first generation Canadian, doing anti-racism work is tough. For a Black woman, it's tough. But for me, it's been a learning journey so far. I love the fact that I get to learn new things every day. I get to engage with our community groups. I tend to engage with leaders and decision makers, policy makers. I get to see different sides of this work and learn from it and softly push the needle. And the changes are coming. Though they're gradual, they're slow, but it's sure. It's exhausting. But one good thing about what I do is that I've got my system of support as well. When I was contacted to be part of this panel, I smiled when I saw the lineup of all the speakers here, Rochelle and Barhet. I see them not just as colleagues, but as sisters, and they're also part of my support system. Like Rochelle said, sometimes you get off the phone and you have to cry, or you get out of a meeting and you go into the washroom and you just start reflecting on your existence as a person doing this work. But I think because of the small wins that we've seen happening in our community, it's somehow good that we're doing it. I wish we had more people in this space. And yeah, I can only be hopeful for the future, for the next generation. I have kids, like Dr. Miriam had mentioned. I've got 3 kids. They're Black kids growing up in Edmonton. I wouldn't want them to grow up in the Edmonton of today. I would want them to grow up in a system that has undergone change, and then they learn from the strides that we're making to see the efforts and the work we've put in. That's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you so much. And those of you who are listening in on Zoom and those who are in person, we do have both. We have the people in person in Calgary. Feel free to, the ones in Calgary, jot down your questions because we're going to need them at some point. And those on Zoom, you can drop those in the chat. We'll get to them as we go. Because as you can hear, the lineup that we have is loaded and you're going to get a ton of information. I want to jump off of what Nneka has said about needing more people and getting more people involved because there's more of us needed in these places. So what needs to be done from a leadership point, whether you're an emerging leader or you as present leader, what needs to be done? What work needs to be done, or that you feel maybe has not been touched on, to get more people involved? And what should that look like? Because there is what you're doing, there is what you feel should be happening, and what actually should be happening.
I think I would say education and awareness should be a strong focus. I know it's happening, and I know there's that information fatigue happening in the community, where people say there's so much talk happening, but with little action. I come from a place where we say, he who asks question doesn't get lost. And you ask questions because you want to know, and you want to know because you want to learn. And I would say incorporating, some form of anti-racism education in workplaces and community programs to raise awareness and understanding that of systemic racism and its impact in the community is a good way. Awareness in terms of encouraging open conversations about the issues and creating safe spaces, for these conversations to happen. Some of us that do this work have to engage in spaces that are not safe for us. But we do it because we know that it's important to say what we want to say, and that it's important to create that awareness. I am so fortunate to work for an organization that has taken up the mantle when it comes to equity work in the community. And because we are placed in a unique way in our community, we can actually do this work without fear or favor, if I could use that term, and actually address it squarely. We're non-governmental, and so based on that, non-partisan. So based on that, we are able to, take on tough topics and discuss it and research it extensively. For example, last year we had one of the projects we churn out at ECF is the Vital Signs Project. And last year our topic was on systemic racism in Edmonton. It was a tough project to work on, but we were able to do that, right? Started and finish it successfully just because we're uniquely placed to do that work. So education and awareness, I think, is a key way to get more people aware and bring more people into this work we do.
Okay, thank you. I'm curious to hear from the others as well. What needs to happen? Because as Nneka has said, there is a bit of fatigue, information overload. And yet we know that this is a wound that still needs to be treated. What should we do as our leaders? What do you see in your crystal balls?
I can jump in. So I think education awareness is definitely one component, but I think that organizations really need to look internally first and look at, what does my organization look like? Where do racialized people sit within this organization? Are they all junior, new staff, or what's your leadership table actually look like? I even think about when you think about who are you uplifting and who are you amplifying? So if you're bringing in speakers or you're paying consultants, who do those people look like? So looking at your social procurement, looking at who you're actually paying to come into the organization and do work with or work alongside with as another example. I find that organizationally, if depending on the organizational size, but having employee resource groups is really helpful when they are sponsored properly. So leadership really is invested in their success, because it's a safe space for people to connect, for people to brainstorm any challenges that they might have, but also be an organizational voice. And I think I say that from my community perspective of working with ATB for Feed the Soul Dining Week is we actually worked through the Black Team Member Network. And so they're able to connect community members to the organization. The organization's like demonstrating their commitment that they want to support the Black community, and really having like advocates. So sometimes like as a outside person, I might be able to say things that someone in an employee resource network might not be able to say. The person in the employee resource network can advocate for me in ways that I can't advocate for myself. So I think really understanding like who are you interacting with like internally and externally in your organization? And beyond that, looking at like where are those points where there's harm that might be present and trying to like decolonize, start to understand, create policies, create practices, like have really tough conversations, not just have people like sit in a like seat, but also to really like listen to what they're saying in an equitable manner. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I could add, Miriam, to what Nneka and Rochelle have said, I think also I would say as those that are thinking about or maybe are in these spaces is that like we mobilize and align our efforts systemically and strategically. For myself, there are spaces I would never go into, right? And if we're talking to each other and we want to do this work, we know what spaces where there's opportunity to maybe collectively influence things, like individually in silos within any organization, we're going to be hard pressed often to see some change. But when we align our efforts and collectively decide, you know, here's a pressure point, here's an opportunity, here's a lever, let's all push in this direction. And also share with each other where during COVID, there were so many executive director positions in Edmonton and everyone was saying, we want BIPOC, we want racialized leadership, we want this. But many of those organizations, myself personally, I would not have gone into because it's tokenism, it's all of these things, right? And so having your support network and to align as a community and a collective for that change addresses some of that like isolated, alone feeling you would feel doing this work alone in an organization. So I would say, talk to each other about where we can have some collective change and power, how our efforts are aligned, because it can feel very alone and lonely sometimes if you're just kind of heads down in your organization or in your particular space.
Thank you so much. You've all reminded me of when I just left my organization, and some of the work that was being done was actually looking at policies, the existing policies, to see if they are actually equitable. And it was an interesting place because I was on the committee. But we want to hear from Calgary. Dr. Love, we want to hear your voice on this one.
Thank you. I just want to add some more information there. Let's look at going to the legal part of these issues. There are places like the police where we don't usually go to. But these places are important for us to enter into. This May, I went to the police station there in Red Deer, RCMP, and I questioned a situation. I asked them about how come our youth, when they get into trouble, you just directly put them in jail. You don't consider them, and these are just like little things, like maybe shoplifting. I'm not encouraging such acts, but I'm a mediator, and I know what happens out there. I know that when the Caucasians go into the stores, they will understand them or just ask you to let them go. But when they are blacks, they will immediately be put to jail. And these things are not helping our communities because these boys or girls, when they come out, they get worse. So if we can get into these places, I challenge that situation, and I tell you the response was good because now I've told them that I like to be contacted for any Black person that gets into trouble before putting them in jail, because sometimes we don't have the support at home. We don't have grandmas. Mothers are working, dads are working. These kids can just go out with their friends, and their friends will tell them to do things just to belong. They will do it, but nobody hears them out. And so we keep hearing about the Black community, the junior ones, the young communities where that are in jail. When they go to jail, they start teaching them more dangerous stuff to do. So if we can be bold and courageous to step out into those places. I had a meeting with them last week, and I requested having a meeting with the judges and lawyers in Red Deer, because I want to take this step further, especially because when I was going to screen my film, they told me not to do the police part because it was going to be against us. Oh, you don't want to show the police on your film. But because they said that, I made sure I represented the police very well, because it was a case that happened in our community. Nobody heard. It was not even on the newspapers. And up to today, they told us they are still addressing it. Until eventually one of them was honest enough to tell me that there's no case that you can win against the police because they will always protect themselves. If that's the case, then we should step up there, go to the roots to find out what crime did this child commit. Why is it so serious that you have to take them to jail right away without hearing them out or knowing the reasons they're doing what they're doing? But I said, I want to address these issues culturally. We have cultures. We have a way of mediating our things, like looking through our backgrounds, and they're accepted. So now I'm working on that. What I'm saying is the things that we can do, actions that we can take, actions like this. We don't have to feel intimidated, no matter who's there, as long as you know you're fighting for the right cause. Let's do it. That's for the youth. Another thing I would suggest is for the women. Black women, when we look, we're not, you can't find a lot of us in places of leadership or authority. So it will be a good thing if when you're there, you create a chair for your sister. Create a chair for your sister. Yes, that's very, very important. And if we are creating chairs in Calgary, in Edmonton, in different parts of Canada, our positions will be increasing. And if we occupy these chairs, I tell you, we'll make impact in this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Love. Now you see why I love Dr. Love. That work, and you just led right into my next question, which is, what's the role of the leader in anti-racism collaborations, and what should those look like? You've given us some lovely examples, and I'm going to go around. You may have more coming up because I know you've done some of your work. But for the other speakers, what's the role of the leader in anti-racism collaborations, and what should those look like? Rochelle, you want to start?
Sure. I think the leader is just like, I don't know, anyone can be a leader. That's where I'm operating from. They need to step into the work, and they need to be able to roll up their sleeves and do the work alongside everyone else. There's often a burden placed on Black, Indigenous, and racialized people to lead out equity, diversity, inclusion initiatives. And I think that's really inappropriate. I feel there's a difference between, I have this lived experience, but I also maybe have training, or I have a passion and a gift for this work. So I think that's one immediate thing that leaders need to recognize is just because someone has an identity doesn't mean that they're going to lead out that work. I think that they really need to do internal reflection as well to understand their privilege, their areas of marginalization and barriers that they've experienced, so that they can start to be like, okay, this is my experience, but these people are telling me that this experience is like this way. And so why is that? To try and like understand like how history has impacted different communities. But I would really say something that I value at Tamarack where I work is that our co-CEO, I can be like, great job. And it's like, okay, great. We're working towards systems change, but I can also say like, I see that this is occurring and like, I want you to be aware of that. And it's like, okay, what do you think like is the next step? And I think it's appropriate that she asked me that because of the role that I sit in and I work in equity, diversity, inclusion. But then it's like, how can I support you? So can I co-draft a statement with you? Can we start to develop a policy? Can we find funding to like do engagement in a specific community? Like those are just some of the ways that she's brainstorming alongside me, willing to like shift budgets, willing to like have those conversations, willing to like go back to those conversations. So it's not that like I'm leading this work, but she's like walking alongside me. And I really appreciate that. My other co-CEO, for example, I'm like brought an idea to like shift some training and like just like put some diverse voices into the training. And it was like, yeah, 100%. Like, here's the training package. You have like creative freedom to do what you want with it. And she's the facilitator of this training as well. So I think it's just that open mindset to having conversations, being willing to change, being willing to engage. And the most important thing that I'll end on, because I can talk for days, is that it's uncomfortable and we have to be okay being uncomfortable. We have to be okay having really challenging conversations that might not lead to action in that moment, but they lead to that reflection. And they like, let's not think that we're going to solve anti-racism in a day, in a week, in a month. Like this is like years long. We're working off of the work that our ancestors have done for us already. And so change is slow and we won't always get it right. And some feelings are going to get hurt along the way. But I think an anti-racist leader is willing to like walk through that process, walk through that mud alongside everyone.
Thank you so much. That is also beautifully said. I like that open-mindedness, because the problem is when you have that leader who is not ready to do the work and you feel you're kind of shoving and pushing and nothing's happening. Instead, you become the bad guy. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit. How do we deal with that? With that situation when you're doing the work, when you're trying to do this anti-racism work, but being faced with pushback. But right now, Barhet, do you want to share what the role of the leader is in anti-racism collaborations and what those collaborations should look like? I'm using the word should.
Like, I just wanted to say I don't know if that's the same question, Rochelle, that you were answering, but I have nothing to add to what you were saying. I'm like, yeah, all of that. There's nothing more to say. Specifically to collaborations, I suppose, maybe if I touch on that piece. I think when we're collaborating outside of, let's say, within the context I'm currently in and with organizations, we wear our organizational hats and it's hard to remove that in these spaces sometimes. But I really think it's important that we try to be intentional about doing that, because you're navigating like white supremacist colonial systems and it's hard to do this work, right? So if I'm just Center for Race and Culture everywhere I go and I'm prioritizing everything of the organization, I'm not doing this work in a meaningful way and in an honest and authentic way. So I think it's letting go of a lot of these things that we're programmed to think and work and navigate in, and to get to the core of, regardless of what hat we happen to be wearing at any given time, that the priority is the wellness of our communities and the communities we belong to and serve. So it's that, I guess what I'm speaking to maybe more directly is like the ego that comes up, like we're all humans doing this work, the territorialism, the scarcity mindset, all of those things is, okay, what's actually best to do here for our communities, and who are the best folks to do this right now? Am I leading right now? Am I supporting right now? Am I collaborating right now? And being okay with whatever your role happens to be, as long as there's collective alignment and moving us forward in that particular time, right? So almost moving ourselves and our organizations oftentimes out of the way for the work, the bigger work that's bigger than any organization that we're trying to do collectively here, which often stands in collaboration. Collaboration, maybe the last thing I'll say there too is, we hear it so often and so casually, but collaboration takes a lot of work. I think we cooperate often in this sector, but the second there is, where are the resources going? Who has the power? Who gets the credit? All of these things create challenges in collaboration. So it has to start with like deep trust with each other that we're actually working towards the same thing and that we're okay with it looking whatever way it needs to look to achieve what we're looking to achieve together. Collaborations also often, I guess, too, for me, I'm learning have to be a bit smaller. Like collaboration can't be big, wide, and broad often because it's harder to have trust in those spaces. But if you have trust in those spaces, collaboration is possible.
Beautiful. And to add a tiny bit to that, just because my colleague is getting something doesn't mean I'm not getting anything. That is where we tend to push against each other, right? When they're taking everything away from you, and yet they are getting a piece, but it doesn't mean that it's not a pie that once pieces are taken, they are gone, you know? So, yes, Ms. Neka.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam. I believe leaders play a crucial role in advancing anti-racism work, either on an organizational level or in the society at large. I agree 100% with Rochelle and Barhet. In fact, I would just add a bit more to it. And my addition might resonate a bit with what Rochelle has mentioned. I believe leaders should set the tone and vision when it comes to their organizations. They should be clear in articulating their commitment to anti-racism work and also walk the walk, or walk the talk. It's different from saying, it's different if you say you are focusing or your organization has prioritized DEI and DEI, justice, reconciliation, and anti-racism. But again, your products or your actions don't reflect that. Leaders should also hold themselves accountable for the work they do, for the statement or the vision or commitment that they have articulated and communicated to their organizations and the community. They should hold themselves accountable for these commitments. And it will be good to have them acknowledge their biases, right? And be open to feedback and willing to make the changes. I would not overemphasize the education piece, because what I've seen and observed in the work I've done is that we don't know what we don't know. A lot of issues are in our blind spot, but when you go out there into the community to engage, you learn. And when you learn, you believe people's lived experiences the first time. You don't question it. In terms of collaboration, I'm actually reading this book, Breakthrough Community Change by Paul Bourne. They had a workshop a couple of months ago in partnership with a lot of local organizations here. Tamarack Institute, where Rochelle is from, was also part of it. And there was this conversation around we can do more together when we unite than any of us can do alone. Anti-racism work is a collective effort. It's not just one person's or one group or one organization's responsibility. It's for everyone. Everyone has a role to play, either leading the initiative or supporting it, like Bahed has mentioned. And so that's where I see the collaborative piece. What I've observed in the work I do is that I see a lot of groups competing, but what I hope to see is more collaborations. And as working for a funder in the city, I see we have an active role to play in it, because we can actually act as conveners. And that's one of the focuses ECF is choosing to make in the next coming years, to create spaces where we could bring organizations and community members doing work across different sectors to the table to collaborate in solving complex issues. So that's all I have on this for now.
That's really key, right? Because we all know organizations in our cities that are doing work, and we're all doing the same work, but we don't talk to each other, right? So we need that space to sit together and say, which piece are you handling? Which piece am I handling? And, how do we come together and keep track of that? Dr. Love, I know this kind of came from you, and I'm back to you.
Yes, another part I would like to add to what we all said is the area of mentorship. If we can get organizations out there, for example, American Express, making plans or programs that will pair up the Black community and get them mentorships. People that will mentor us into becoming what we need to become in this community, to become people that will help us grow in the direction of the careers that we're looking into. If we can get that partnership whereby they will provide us with mentors, but not just mentors to help you start maybe 4 weeks, but mentors that will follow through with you as you grow in your career until you get to a place where you're stable. I know that there are big organizations like that. American Express is good at that. If we can come together like organizations, which is the importance of working together, come together, present a need for the Black community. And so, okay, we do need to have mentors from your organizations that will help promote, train, guide the Black communities because we want to raise leaders in every area, in every profession. We need to have the Blacks represented there. But because we don't have this opportunity of entering into the places, those that will go in will hear that, oh, you don't have enough experience. That's why many people, the same people, are occupying those positions over and over again for years. So for us to get these experiences, we do need to be paired up with experienced professionals to help us navigate the paths of success in this land. That's the part I would like to add to what they have said so far. Thank you.
Dr. Sekandu, before we move on, I was just thinking about this from a community work perspective. And you asked what does collaboration look like? And I can tell you what it doesn't look like at this. Hey, can I get your help with something? And the problem is that people don't value the intangible nature of what I'm contributing, and they're never willing to pay for that. So when I'm doing my community work, everybody wants to collaborate. And if I've done this where I give myself until I have nothing left to give and I'm burnt out and I'm the one suffering. And that's the thing that people don't see is like, they see the polished version of me, the one with smiles. They don't see the one that like struggles with mental health and like suffers on the inside. And so when I think of like organizationally what collaboration looks like with community, it's like paying that person an honorarium to even come and have a conversation with you. It's understanding when you like, I bring issues. I'm unapologetic in my work. It doesn't matter if it's in my dated like 9-to-5 job or my community work, but I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing and how I'm seeing it. And if your feelings get hurt in that, like, I'm so sorry. So it's being able to like, for me to like have that conversation. And also that's my gift to you. It's not my job to then like solution for your organization so that you can work with my community. So I think like, as important as it is to like sometimes come at this from a positive, I think it's really important like to share my experiences like on the ground as a community member of like what collaboration needs to stop looking like. And I like simply don't have time for it. I will tell you like, this is a problem that I'm seeing, or this is like harmful. This is harm that's occurring. And then I'm like, if you want to talk about this further, I'm happy to send you my consulting rates. And that I think protects me from like the free unpaid emotional labor that people just like have now come to expect from me. Yeah.
Oh, and I think probably all of us who've been in those situations have experienced that, where, you know, it's kind of like someone expects you to come and spend an evening with a group and go away with nothing. And sometimes it kind of hurts because we put work into this, right? We don't just wake up because we are Black and then we talk about anti-racism work. We actually open books, we study, we do the personal work, and then we bring that, I would say, healed self to the table to share. And, you know, I hope, you know, individuals that are listening here who are attendees and belong to different community groups can actually take this back, because honestly, we need to be our first supporters and cheerleaders, because if we don't see each other, how do we expect others who are outside of us to see us? If I start on that one, again, I won't stop as well. So I will go to the resistance or pushback. In a bit after this question, we shall be answering some questions from the public, because I know this one will bring a bit more questions as well. But those of you who have questions, if you're online, put them in the chat. If you're in person, in Calgary, get ready to speak and ask any one of our speakers or panelists. So as a leader, how do you manage resistance or pushback from individuals who do not understand this work? Is anti-racism work that we are doing. And I know sometimes you may not be able to manage, but what would be ideal? What would be an ideal way to manage the resistance or pushback that we receive? And I'll leave this open to any of you to go. Personal experiences are welcome too.
I actually worked paramilitary, so I dealt with a lot of resistance. And I took it, I was very like early in my career, I would say, and I took it very personally. And it actually resulted in like an investigation. So I think the one thing about when you're dealing with like resistance is that it needs to be called out and it needs to be addressed. And that can be really scary. I know that like, even as a Black woman, I have like immense privilege in my life. I could walk away from my life here in Edmonton and just go home to my parents in Red Deer, then they'd accept me with open arms. And that's not the case for a lot of people. So I do say that, like, knowing that I have a lot of privilege, but I think that like not being afraid to be that voice, if everyone's scared to like say this is harmful, this person is like has white fragility, to even call out white fragility when you see it, to call white supremacy when you see it, If we can't do that, like, how do we even begin to like make progress, I guess is my question. It doesn't always have to be the person that's going through it either. Like, you can be an advocate, an ally, you can stand in solidarity with others through that process. I think that I've learned like how to like put things and compartmentalize a little bit better. So one of my favorite lines is like, thank you for your perspective. Like, I'm going to take that into consideration if I see resistance that just is not worth my time or energy. In my like practice community professional, knowing that I'm a consultant, I can tell you how I feel. I can tell you what I know, and what you choose to do with that is up to you. But I'm not going to like kill myself trying to change your mind. You need to do some work in this process as well. I think also, especially like in virtual spaces, like with the Zoom bombing that we're accustomed to, we need to be prepared to handle harm. We need to be prepared to call it out and be like, this is harmful. It needs to stop. We need to be prepared to cut people off like in person, virtually, so that that harm like can't exist. And I think the biggest thing is, it goes back to that like solidarity and how do you become an anti-racist leader, is knowing when, as an anti-racism practitioner, that I have to say like, I need you to step into this work alongside me. Like, I can't do it alone. And so I don't think that's like the tangible things that people are necessarily looking for about how to address resistance. But I think that basically we just can't put up with it. Like, it can't be tolerable behavior anymore. And maybe my lovely panelists will have some more like practical tips that they can offer. But yeah, I think of it from like more of a holistic standpoint of just being the voice when you need to be the voice.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rochelle. I see from what you're saying, I'm getting that as a leader, it is imperative that you do anti-racism work so you can call it out. Because some people are leaders, but they don't do that work. And so it becomes difficult for them to step in and say, stop. And they don't know what to do. So it's kind of some of that work that we need to buffer ourselves as leaders. Yeah, thank you. Bahet, you were speaking and then.
Yes, so for me, some advice I would give in this, for anyone doing the anti-racism work or working in a space where you face resistance in the work you do, whether it's anti-racism or not, is to hone in on your emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. You've got it. So you listen, use active listening or build up active listening skills. Listen attentively to resistance points. They come up in conversations. And then ask probing questions to understand what the underlying concerns are. An example is, you could ask, can you provide more context or background on what you're trying to say? And then I find out that when people are trying to provide that context or background, they start seeing what the problem is from their perspective, from their point. So this has been a skill I have used for some time now, and it's worked for me. And it has helped me address specific objections and also helped me to learn what the other person is thinking as well. Sometimes when we do this work, we are like a moving train in one direction. We just want to get to the end of the journey or the project. And when we face resistance, we just cower and say, oh, I face this resistance, I'm not going ahead. But when we ask those probing questions and we get to see where the other parties are coming from, it gives us a deeper perspective of what the objection is, and then we also know how to address it. Mm-hmm. Another thing I've learned is offer real life examples that demonstrates that racism exists. Like I said earlier in one of my comments, I can't remember what the question was, but I said I think it was around educational awareness. When you hear people's lived experiences, you should believe it the first time. I have been in situations where I've shared some stories and they're like, oh no, that can't happen in Edmonton. And I go like, no, it's Edmonton. I don't have to put a name to it, but yes, this has happened and it's happened to someone. And so having that, having the real life examples to demonstrate the existence of racism, it's good. Having the real life examples to demonstrate the impact on individuals and communities is also good as well. Being in a position to correct misinformations and misconceptions is also good. Like I mentioned during my introduction, my formal role was communications. And so I had seen firsthand how, misinformation or misconceptions could be damaging to the work we do. So gently correcting it's something I would advise as well. Thank you.
Thanks for those practical tips. I have actually picked up the context. Can you please provide more context and background to what you're saying? And then they'll catch themselves. Good one. Thank you for that. Bahet or Dr. Love?
Yes. Something I've done and continue to do is when I hit those barriers or those resistance, what I do is I go looking for a different leader in that organization. For example, when I met with the police, the person I met with said, oh, that's okay, that's a good idea. I'll get back to you. I did not get the feedback after 1 month. So I sent a reminder email. I said, to remind you of what we spoke about, and I haven't heard back from you. I did not get a response. So I changed and looked for a different leader in another compartment. I did not stop there. I went to Edmonton. I sent an email to the Edmonton head office, the police department, and I sent another one to Calgary. I requested for a meeting, a team meeting with all of them. They came on board and we had these meetings. From there, they now contacted somebody in Red Deer that accepted to do the meeting. So what I'm saying is that we should not back up when we hit this resistance. Try again, use a different approach, look for another office that can be useful to you in achieving your goal. Because we have to realize that what we are doing is crucial, is very, very important. I always think about Nelson Mandela, the sacrifices they made, the price they paid. If they did not pay such prices, I don't know where we would have been by now. Martin Luther King. And so we should be ready to step up to that place whereby if I die, I die. Someone has to pay the price. So, but we can't back up when we meet these things because they are out there. Some people will say, yes, we're going to do it, but they're just wanting to be nice because it's a culture of being nice in this land. People want to be nice. They're not aggressive immediately. They pretend that they are with you. Then when you leave, they still do what they want to do. But just continue searching until you find those that will work with you and come with facts. That's why I really, I thank God for the possibility of making that film and letting them know that this is real life experience that happened here. I had a different one with the schools because I was invited to speak in the schools during the Black History high schools. And after the meeting, students were crying, and some professors, I requested a meeting with the parents' union, that I would like to have a meeting with the parents' union, because we have some cases where our children go to the washroom to have snack, to have their lunches, because the other children are making fun of them. And the school will just say, oh, just get over it. And I'll be like, no, we're not getting over this. We want to resolve this problem. So why don't we have meetings with the parents' organization? And I did have a meeting with those parents because we have students there, so they will not refuse to have a meeting that will protect the interests of the Black community. So these are some of the things that I have, some of the strategies I've used in the past to make sure that we are heard, despite the resistance that we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you much. We're almost going into questions. There is a comment in the chat, and I will read it after Bahet shares.
Yeah, I'll be quick, and it's touching on some of the stuff folks have already shared. I think for me, the main thing has been my own healing journey. And I think, Miriam, you mentioned this, right? So I think the first step is always when I'm meeting resistance is checking in with myself. This work is so deeply personal and can become very triggering and activating, right? So for me, it's where am I at when I'm meeting this resistance? How am I being effective? Can I show up in the way that I need to show up or want to show up in this space? So the checking in with myself and how I'm experiencing what's this resistance would be first. And so then from there, I agree, and some folks have said this, is the curiosity has been a lifesaver in engaging with folks. Matter of fact, there was a lady who was probably one of the most challenging people I've worked with in these spaces. And she said to me very directly one day, she's like, I feel less, I can hear you when you use the word curiosity. She's like, I'm open to hearing what you have to say. I didn't enjoy it coming out of her mouth, but it's true, right? She became less defensive if I just became curious to better understand what she was thinking. As problematic as she was, it was a strategy I used in engaging with her. And so seeking clarity, being curious, because then it also, I think, Nneka, you said this, gets you to understand more specifically, because 9 times out of 10, we've heard this before, and we can jump to this is what's happening here. But to better understand and unpack exactly what's happening, to be like, oh, it's this particular piece for you, though. Let me address that and not miss the point that you're trying to make with blanking it in. So curiosity and seeking clarity. And then I think the other piece, this goes maybe back to the first point around your own wellness and checking in with yourself and how you're showing up in the space, is knowing when to walk away. Being very clear when I'm done and I'm not investing my energy, time, resources in this. I may come back later, but right now I'm not doing this with you. And so those, I think, 3 things. And when all else fails, humor is always fun. Just laugh at the things and go about your way. Maybe the one last thing I'll add is community. I know who I can go to if I need support, validation, to go laugh with, to go cry with, would be the things. But yeah, knowing when to walk away is probably one of the more recent ones where I'm more protective, jealously protective of my time and energy and resources.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And coming on panels like this and sharing your strategies empowers other individuals as well. And Josephine shared that I would suggest that going forward, we need continuous communication through established groups like this, which can be used as an educational and advocacy part. Josephine, do you want to come on and expand on your share, if you don't mind? Or that's enough?
Yes, thank you. I'll come on, but my face is full of masks, so I won't open the camera. Okay. I'm with you, ladies, based in the rural areas in Longview. And yes, so what I'm saying is we are more in silos. So this is the best so far that I have experienced with this discussion. What I am hoping is that going forward, I'm not sure whether that advocacy group is in existence or you are that group, because I just joined today the discussion where people experiencing things like that can channel it through, even if it means, just talking with an individual, knowing that they are not alone, sharing those strategies that can be done, and sometimes just helping formulating a write-up if it's needed to present it to where it should go. Because I feel like most of the time we are just alone. You feel like you are facing this big mountain alone. You can't do anything. You are swallowed.
Josephine, where are you located, if you don't mind?
Longview.
Longview.
Yeah, after Oku Talks and Black Diamond.
Okay. When we have individuals like that who are interested in the work and don't have that support, they need that connection at the network.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe, Josephine, you were able to get onto this call. You must have received an email. If you don't mind, we shall connect with you and, kind of get you in touch with individuals who you can work alongside, even when you're at a distance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think, Dr. Sikandi, collaboration is very important. Systems of support are very important so that you can, I work alongside NECA and Barhet, and we've talked about how important it is to be surrounded in community, to not exist in this one-of role. These roles are often one-of in an organization, and your organization could be small, it could be large. So you need that system of support in order to survive, really, at the end of the day. But I also think it's really important to address that, it can't just be the people who are impacted that leading this forward. I can't see who's in the room with you, but I can see the participants. And I would say the majority of people online are of African descent. And it can't be just us talking about anti-racism together. We need everyone in this conversation in order to actually see progress and change. So it's not just taking that step of showing up to this space today, but who are you bringing with you as well, so that they can hear directly what we're talking about.
With that, Josephine?
Yeah, so that is very good. At one point, I have a daughter who's 22 doing communications and political science at UFC. And we're talking about this anti-racism because we got was it $3,000 grant for this? We called women together and so forth. And my daughter literally said to me, "Mom, we can't continue to be victims here. We experience it every day. And it's not that nobody knows. They know that. So it is time to bring those other ones on the other side of the fence. Let's include them and hear their stories. And maybe sharing their experience and so forth, because it's even not everybody that we would think they are racist, that are racist. There are those who really do not like it, but they don't know. They don't know how best to support us, and so forth. Maybe if we bring everybody on the table, then we can form a strong ally. And that way we can see progress in what we intend to do. So, no, I agree with you, beautiful young lady. Yeah.
Michelle. And, that's beautiful because you mentioned the word ally. I think the next workshop is allyship, if I'm not mistaken. Tope, is that it?
The fourth one, the one in September.
The one in September, right? Awesome. Yeah, there's 6 of these, and hopefully Mr. and Mrs. Olotu can give us more. But there's 6 of these, and one of them will be allyship. And that will be a great one to bring individuals to. And all of them, as you get the information.
Yeah.
There is
thank you.
a suggestion. There should be organizations, groups going on at schools. Yes. And I think this has been, we've talked about this. I think every Black History Month, I hear this same comment that there should be organizations or support groups in schools, not just Black History Month. Although I also say Black History Month is the time when people are listening to us, and that's the time when we should actually be the loudest. So it's an opportunity to be loud and, speak up about these issues. And yes, there should be, I agree. There's been a lot of noise around that. Just curious. Thank you so much, contributor. I'm curious if there are any questions from Calgary. Those who are online, there are people in Calgary who are in person, and I'm jealous because I want somebody here with me. I have you here, but I want warm-blooded individuals. Are there any questions?
I think there is one. Just want to read one from a direct message. So this student was asking, I guess when you were talking about resistance, bringing it home to them as the young students in the school, talk to their principal or wherever that they were being racialized and nobody believed them.
Yeah.
What can they do?
Yeah.
So I was the question came in a direct message when we were talking about resistance. So I guess he or she was pondering, bringing it home to their level. Some of the topics we talk about, these big topics are kind of hard for a student to understand. But trying to imagine how they experience racism in their own level. So this child has experienced some form of discrimination and discussed with the authority at that school, but nobody believed it.
Yes, I can address that because that's similar to what I said originally. That is big in schools. In fact, the children don't say much about what they go through. They don't say it, but they go through a lot. So in one of the times I was there, I requested, why don't we have support for the Black children in the school? Because we have support for the Aboriginals. They have their offices there. First Nations, when they have crisis, they know who to go to. But the Black children don't have such support. I made such requests, and during this last election, I went to the people contesting to be the MPs or the leadership positions, and I did put this request that this is what I would like to see during their leadership, to have our Black people to be in the school to give our children support when they need it, to help bring out the voice. I had that question the same day from a student in the school. That's why I requested to have parents meeting, because that's the leadership of the school. They have parents associations that get to do plan things around the school to get them to come and have meetings to talk about what's going on with the Black children. So they should use that avenue. And it worked because all the teachers were brought on board. The Parents Association came on board to have a breakthrough conversation on some of the issues that the Black children brought up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Love. You raise a really good, because I remember when my kids were still small, I was more engaged in their school boards. And what I'm bringing up here is leadership is not just people in leadership positions. Leadership is also self-leadership. What are we as individuals doing us. What are we as individuals doing? If our kids are in schools and we can't attend the school council meetings, which are once a month, those school council meetings are there, and honestly, people are listening. I was there. I remember going in. I didn't advocate for my own kids, but I advocated for a different group of children where they were putting out notices in English. What happened was I noticed that a lot of the parents who were picking up children they were not parents, they were mainly grandparents, and a lot of them were immigrants, and they were not reading the notices. I paid attention, and some of them were Arabic, some of them were Mandarin speakers. And I attended the meeting and I said, if you put the notices in different languages, people are more likely to actually read this. And they did that. And guess what happened? There was an uptick in the attendance because people were able to take these notices home because they recognized that they were important because they could now read the notices. So self-leadership in this situation goes a long way. It's not just people in leadership positions, but wherever we are, each one of us attending here, how can we step into a leadership role where we take on an issue? And some of this is being responsible enough to attend our kids' school council meetings. When they're asking for volunteers for things, showing up for those things, and actually having conversations with the teachers and with the principals. But otherwise, we shall stand back and complain and complain and complain. Those people don't even know how deep the issue is. Because when a child is complaining that someone's pushing me, they may wonder, isn't that normal? Don't kids push each other? They are not going to connect the dots. But we know, and just us being in proximity with those people in those leadership positions can actually help. Another anonymous question. I've seen elementary schools in Calgary having support for Black people, but why don't high schoolers have any? Only a few private schools have support, but public high schools don't have much regarding it. Someone else can answer this, but again, to me, if I have a high schooler, I'm going to have a high schooler next year, this upcoming September, and I'm going to be in the school because I'm in a very, very highly non-Black place. And I know I need to be present in the school. But that's my contribution. Someone else can add to that as well. One of the
how we answer that question, sorry, I think someone wanted to contribute to the previous question.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Abimbola. So just to kind of add to what you already said, I think as a parent, one thing we should learn to do is follow suit with any complaint from our child. I have two experiences, and what I've learned is the fact that I have to make sure I document things. Send an email. Follow up with the email, because most times I would cite an example. So I have a kindergarten, and as a boy, boys could tend to be a little bit rough. So they had 4 of them playing, and I got a call about my boy saying that he did push someone. What they didn't tell me is that there were 4. It was pictured as though he was the one pushing. When I got to the office, he told me exactly what happened. And when I got to the office, I was the one narrating what happened. So the person who was telling me the story didn't tell me the full story. So we need to learn to document things. We need to learn to follow up. That way, our kids would have confidence in walking up to us to tell us what exactly is happening in school. Most times they don't have the confidence because even though they don't believe them in school, as Africans, we are, I would say cultural wise, we are kind of passionate. We have that compassion. We have empathy easily. We don't like to put people into trouble. We tend to let things go off easily. We don't need to be aggressive about it. We just need to put forward, not in an aggressive manner. Number one, let's always learn to document. I will cite another example. I had another daughter. much older now, but when she was in kindergarten, she passed by someone in particular every day in school, and this individual would always say, as though something is smelling, right? And she's a very, very calm child. So she walked up to me and told me, Mommy, this is happening. So I called the teacher and I told the teacher. When the teacher spoke to the individual said, the only brown thing I've seen is a poop. And that's why I say, when she passes by me. Now, what I'm trying to bring up in this is that I did not record it. I did not send an email. And guess what happened? That did not get to the principal. So we have to learn to follow suit so that our kids will have confidence. We're not telling them to be aggressive. We're not telling them to, do things in a manner. We can still bring forth a complaint in a way that justifies every peaceful manner, but make it known. The only time the principal had for me was like a year after. And why did the principal have? Something else happened. And I walked up to the principal's office calmly and I said, did you know this and this happened? And she said she never knew. So we have to learn to document things for record purposes and to bring it to the right, just like what Dr. Love said. We have to keep trying until we get the right channel. So how do we, number one, building confidence in our children is by knowing that, when they come home, they're going to get that support in love. But we're not teaching them hatred at the same time. We're not telling them to do it in a wrong way. We're being open and we can solve situation with love, but make your voice known. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely. Standing in the gap when our kids come to us and not being too busy to address these things. We are going to chip away. It's not a one-day fix, but we have to chip away until the culture in the school actually changes at a policy level. We are all dealing with the systemic racism, and so we know we are fighting a bigger system than just the school. So we all need to be forward moving.
Correct.
Any more questions?
Sorry, just to add to the conversation, what has been said. My name is Bankole. Again, yes, I want to corroborate what the last speaker said, talking about strategy on how to combat this, both within the children level for our kids and even at the adult level in our organizations. So let's start with the children level. Even while it is so important that we follow up with documents and we send emails and all of that, sometimes they intentionally suppress those emails. Sometimes they become the gatekeeper. They don't want it to go past them because they know what they're hiding. That happened to my kid once, the boy right there. That's why I brought them. A particular parent was complaining that our own son will get back home and say the black boy in the room does this to him. I'm like, okay. And my son was the only black boy in the room. He never mentioned him by name. I sent an email to this teacher, and the next day I walked straight to the principal office. I want to see the teacher. I want to see the teacher. I want to see the child. And they called the mom. I mean, we went through this over and over again. Unfortunately, the mom and the son, they were the same thing. She couldn't stand it anymore. She had to withdraw a child from that school. Am I aggressive? No, but I don't want you to paint my child in a different way. Sending an email, the teacher will probably be piling it up and be hiding, just like you rightly said, that it never get to the principal until a year later. So at the children level, yes, we need to be involved. We need to let our kid know that, you know what, I got your back. Talk to me, whatever it is. If anybody say this to you, and I let them know, it's not a bad thing. Don't expect any other treatment. They are going to treat you this way, either you like it or not. I mean, we have to have that conversation with our kids. We're not teaching them hatred, but this is the reality of what happens everywhere. You are going to double your effort before you be known. You are going to work extra hard before you could be recognized, just because of the color of your skin. Also, in our organizations, do we just, when we hear things happen to your colleague, a fellow black guy or a fellow black woman, do we just, okay, it's not me? These people, I mean, when I say these people, our fellow white people, they tend to kind of use that as a weapon against us, our disunity. They use that against us because in an organization, let's say, for instance, myself and Bayo were in the same organization. If I complain to, let's say, HR or anybody that this happened to me, and Bayo's opinion was sorted, maybe unofficially, Bayo could just say, you know what, don't mind him. That's just a minor thing. And then they just treat it that way. And then they expect that you are Black. You're supposed to accept that. That's the kind of perception they have. We're supposed to be more resilient. We're supposed to be more, to endure the pain. We're supposed to be more this. There's a woman here, Dr. Joy DeGraw. We can probably listen to her work. She's done extensive work on anti-slavery post-slavery traumatic syndrome or whatever it was. Why we suffer for that as a Black people? Some of the white people also suffer for that. They don't even know. Inherent biases within themselves. They don't even know that this is racist, even their behavior, until you put it right in front of them. And how have I decided to get that done? On my own little way. In my organizations, if I hear that, Bayo is in logistics, I am in engineering, even though it doesn't concern me, when I hear about it, I follow up. I'll take it as if it's me. Because it's not me today does not mean it cannot be me tomorrow. So we can't just walk past it. If I am in SAIT, for instance, and I hear of something in the University of Calgary, I will follow up. It is not my business. I will make it my business. It's just a matter of time. If it's not my business, it's going to be my child business somewhere down the line. So we need to make sure we stand up for that. Also, talking about schools, how are we involved in our local political community or political activities? The school boards are elected officials. Are we there? Okay, we just talked about, we have some private schools that have support system for indigenous people because somebody someday spoke up. Somebody suddenly demanded it. Like the Dr. Riley said, she demanded, okay, I want to speak with the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association. If nobody said it, they knew it is needed, they're not going to bring it up because it's not their business. It's our business. So we need to get involved. When it is time to elect the school board, people are campaigning in our neighborhood. Are we there? Okay, we all know, this is another thing here. We all know the liberals, we are more liberally minded because we are immigrants. And then the conservative are more the other way. So where do we gather? We all gather in the liberal circle, telling ourselves the same story, singing to the same choir. No, go to the conservative team, join there. You don't have to vote when it's time to vote for conservative. Nobody knows. But let it be on the table there. Let them know what they are saying is not right. I'm a member of my homeowner association in my estate. And then at some point they said, we need to celebrate Christmas. And someone said, no, we don't have to. We just put lights. We will not put Merry Christmas. And I said, why? They said, because we didn't want to offend the Muslim or the anything. I said, okay, so what do you want to do? So they want to put just happy holiday. I said, what holiday is it? Say Christmas holiday. So what are you talking about? So if it's Christmas holiday, so why aren't they going to work? Why should they take the holiday if you want to be offended? If somebody wants to celebrate Christmas, let's celebrate Christmas. Tomorrow, the Hindu guy wants to celebrate Hindu, we'll put Apple Hindu. If somebody wants to celebrate Halloween, with Happy Halloween. Inclusiveness. We can't afford to think that somebody, especially the aggressor, will never speak for us. We need to be there. We need to get involved. We need to go. All of us can be political office holder, but we need to be where that conversation is being had. If you can become a school board member, maybe you're the only Black person on that block, whatever it is, the school board, you can say, you know what? I noticed we do not have support system for Black community. Everybody will be quiet. Then you continue to talk. Maybe the first time they're not going to listen to you. The second time you bring it up, they're going to listen to you. The third time you bring it up, they're going to listen to you. I'm a member of my political board association at the national level. I brought up a case with my EDA. I raised up a policy. The first time, 3 years ago, it was stepped down. All right, no problem. Nobody voted for it. Second time, nobody voted for it. Third time, it got to the provincial level. I went there, consistency. I went there at the provincial level at Redia. I think it was February this year. And then my policy was part of it. It didn't make it to the national. I will continue again until it gets there. So we need to get involved. We can't walk past issue, okay, because it's not me. It's going to be you someday, or it's going to be someone you know down the line. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What you're describing is exactly that self-leadership, doing as individuals. And this is a moment of reflection too for ourselves. How are we exercising self-leadership while we are talking about leadership and anti-racism? What does that look like? I'm just looking at the time, unless there is another question.
Andy, there was a comment before about supports for students in Calgary.
Yes.
I don't work with youth often, so it's not an area that I have knowledge in, but I do know that there's a group called the Alberta Black Teachers Association. And I would find like which teachers in Calgary are part of that association and like get them to brainstorm how you can get those types of groups within your schools. I'm going to put a link to the chat and maybe it can get sent out somehow to people who registered and attended today. But his name's Matthew Sauer, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name correct. I know that he works closely with the co-founders here in Edmonton. So, and I put his LinkedIn. So he'd be a really good person to reach out to and really start that conversation. And maybe there's something you're not aware of that exists, or maybe he knows how to like push it through the Calgary school system.
And I think there is something for Black students as well, but it might be very at its infancy. Not sure.
So to add to what Rochelle has said and our guests that also shared their stories, I would say that it goes beyond just having Black teachers in the schools. These teachers have to be in positions where the students have access to them. I have a 12-year-old and he goes to one of our schools here in Edmonton. I didn't know he had a Black teacher in his school till I think the school was one of the polling stations we had for elections, and I went to vote and I saw a Black teacher and I came home and said, "Oh, you have a Black teacher in your school?" And he said, "Yes, but I don't have access to him when I have issues." So you get what I mean. We might have representation in spaces, but are they put in a position to actually help the students that are there that will need them in times of problems or crisis? I don't think so. During our Vital Signs project last year on systemic racism, we looked at the educational system, and one of the advisory committee members is in Calgary, and she mentioned that yes, that there's an increase in representation when it comes to Black teachers, but she also echoes my thoughts now that the students don't have access to these teachers. So it's something that we should have at the back of our minds when we're engaging with school boards or with the schools to say if they have Black teachers in spaces, they should utilize their lived experiences to help solve problems that Black kids encounter in schools.
And I did speak to a teacher. She happened to have been my student actually at the U of A. And then I met her years later and she remembered me. I remembered her, but not what she looked like, but she did remember me. And she told me that being the only Black teacher in the school, she's always asked to do the DEI work. And she said, just because she's Black, it doesn't mean that she wants to do that work. And so she was kind of frustrated that all she wants to do is be a teacher. She just wants to teach kids. But then she's every time there is an issue with the Black kid or, the conversation that needs to be had around that, she's the one asked to sit in and she doesn't want to do that. So not everyone is also in position to even want to do this. So the results with the Alberta Black teachers too, can help with that, because kids don't necessarily have access to these Black teachers, and not every Black teacher wants to be engaged in this work.
Can I say something to that? We shouldn't be requesting the teachers to do that, but to have specific staff in the school that will be responsible for that part, because the other people who are being represented are not the teachers. They have staff paid, and that's their role. They have space for their children. Each time they are challenged, they can go there. Because what if that teacher was teaching when the child had an issue? What if that teacher wasn't in school that day? And you do need to have a particular type of training that has to do with mental health as a counselor, because when a child comes to you and the child is traumatized, you need to, first of all, heal the child, restore the child's mental state at that spot before even addressing what happens. And the teacher might not have that strength or training. So there should be an allocation for the Black community in different schools, high school, secondary school, with the offices that are there for us. Our students are paying the same money that other students are paying, and we are the people less privileged in the school that need that support. So that's what I'm suggesting, that those are some of the requests that we should step up as organizations and start placing these demands on the government to add it to the school curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's kind of interesting, like coming from rural Alberta, where I was the only Black kid in my school, though. Like that would just happen within our school board. So I think when you look at urban centers, it's a model that could work. But when you look at rural centers, then you have to like understand the logistics of it and having an advocate, like whether or not they're Black. And that's why like I go to the Black Teachers Association. It's not just Black teachers that are part of that group. It's allies as well. It's white teachers. It's like racialized teachers. There's Indigenous teachers. It's just really important that it's like that systems kind of approach, like mapping out the system. Like the parents need to step alongside their children. You need the Teachers Association of teachers that want to like do this work regardless of what their racial background is. You need people on the school board who are like willing to step into this work as well. You need people that are like going to advocate at the like political level. So I think it's like understanding like what does the whole system look like and what's my role that I'm going to take up in the system. And when it's beyond like what I'm able to do, who's the next person that I tap into that can like add on to that support factor.
Thanks, Rochelle. Thanks for that. I'm going to, first of all, I want to say thank you, but I know there is thanks coming to everybody, everyone who joined us from wherever you are from. Where did she say, Josephine?
Longview.
Longview?
Yeah. It's in the mountains. It's in Kananaskis.
There you go. Now I want to come there. From Longview to Calgary to Edmonton. Anybody from elsewhere?
Red Deer.
Red Deer. Shout out your place. Thanks for joining us for this pertinent conversation. And I hope we've all picked out something to take away that we are going to act on. Thank you to our lovely panelists, Dr. Love, Barhet, Rochelle, and did I lose your name, my dear sister Neka? No, I didn't. I actually need your contact because I wanted to connect with you, but now I know where to find you. Tea will get me to you. So thank you so much. And all those who've joined us from all over, those who've shared your stories, thank you so much. The young people in the room, before I close this down, this is the last piece, and I won't even speak after this.
No, you're going to speak again.
I promise I won't. Just something for those young people in the room, because they're the future leaders of this work. They're the future people coming up with this work. One word from each panelist to those young people, please. Anything in your work that you see could be transferred, passed on to those young people, and any young people who might be listening online. Some people might be seated along with their kids.
I do 2 words. Pace yourself.
Pace yourself. Mm-hmm.
All I have to say is tell your parents what you're going through. Don't suppress your emotions. Whatever happens to you out there, tell your parents. Don't hide the situations. Don't compromise to be accepted. Thank you.
3 words. I'll say speak up, or forward, sorry, forward. Speak up and interrupt. What I mean by this is that be open to challenging biased remarks and microaggressions when you hear them. Challenge them and use your voice to educate and create a more inclusive environment for everyone, not just for yourself, but everyone.
I read something recently that says often when we're giving advice to others, we're speaking to our younger selves. So for me, it's you are so worthy of everything.
Thank you. So I'll gladly pass it back to.
Before you pass it, we have a grandma in the room that has some wisdom for us.
Grandma wisdom. I'm even sitting here for this.
Thank you very much. What I want to add is that when you are in an organization and you have people of like color, you are Black, you come together and face the organization, whatever impact, whatever evil or whatever thing that is untold that has happened to you. You come together. For instance, in Nigeria, in any organization, you recognize the Igbos. Once an Igbo person is an organization, within 2 or 3 months, he brings other Igbo into that organization. So once you are in an organization that you can call people, that you can work together, then you come together and be a strong advocate, sort of. Not necessarily to antagonize the organization, but to come as a workforce in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Grandma. So, Olotu Tope, I will gladly hand back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for a beautiful evening. I have learned a lot. I want to appreciate all the speakers. I won't mention their names again. It's been awesome. I am truly thankful on behalf of the board of Aspire Hub and the leadership and the staff. We want to say thank you for making this evening a part of making today part of your evening, making this event a part of your summer, and then just generally being a part of us and being ready to make this change together. Change is difficult. Change can be slow. Change is inconvenient. But we can do this. We can do this. Every time that you show up as a person, Black, woman, man, child, teenager, you are doing a lot because you're representing all of us. So when you show up the best that you can, knowing that you're an ambassador. You're standing for your family. You are standing for a community. You are standing for something that is bigger than you. So don't go there and make a mess. Go there and stand strong and do what you need to do. And that's one of the things, the values that we teach the youth at Aspire Hub. We want them to be ambassadors because we are not that many. So we don't want to be the Black person that, misrepresents the rest of us. And that can be like a lot, can be like we're adding more rocks to the backpacks of each and every one of us, the backpacks that are already heavy. But it's just a challenge to live meaningfully, to live purposefully, to live, authentically, and to speak up and to challenge what we don't want to see. The conversations are just starting. I don't know if the camera can show the upcoming conversations that we still have. This is just the second out of 6. We still have workshop 3, Understanding the Black, Indigenous, and Youth of Color in the Context of the Canadian Society is our next one. It's going to be hybrid like this. It's going to be in person in Edmonton. We are from Edmonton, so we are traveling back to Edmonton on the 19th, actually next week, Saturday. So by this time next week, we will just be closing our session together. We have a number of people also joining that conversation. So if you can, join us in person in Edmonton or online on Zoom, through Zoom. It's going to be great. We're going to continue the conversation. We know it's not convenient. We know it's going to touch on some of the pain that we're experiencing, and we might still experience for a while. But let us keep having the conversation, because if we keep quiet, it's going to be worse. Okay, so we cannot keep quiet. Now we've been challenged to keep talking. We've been challenged to show up. We've been challenged to, join a political party or even join a campaign or speak up, join the board association, speak up at school. Don't shy from representing what we represent. So next week is our next conversation. Join us, please. I'm inviting all of us again to it. And then in September, October, and November, they're going to have we have the rest of the conversations. It's going to be enlightening, and we are going to learn a ton, and we are going to grow in our leadership, because we are all leaders. We are leaders at home, and we are leaders wherever we are in our organization. So let's take this leadership out of here and let's go make some change. Let's go make a difference, because we've got it. And we are not alone. We have a whole community of people standing and cheering us on and saying, we got this, we can do this. I wish us all the best as we continue this fight, because we are fighting on this side of victory, because we are going to win. We are not alone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate it.